Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Alan Cates, CEO of Kilo Reserve, a platform that allows investors to own physical metals, starting with copper. And he is a former finance executive turned entrepreneur, focuses on real assets and commodity markets, helps investors understand the growing demand for copper driven by electrification, AI, and global infrastructure. And he says many believe in the world believe that it is heading towards a significant copper supply shortage. So we'll learn from him about all this, how physical copper could play a role in the modern portfolio, and also about the coming shortage and much more. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Thank you, Jay. I really appreciate being here, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation today.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Alan. Welcome to India in this online form, and I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll learn from you about investing in copper and much more. And before that, let's learn a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Sure, I appreciate the opportunity. From a background perspective, I spent 10 to 15 years with large financial institutions in a variety of roles across trading, finance, pricing, analysis, and strategy. The large banks, Bank of America, PNC, were just wonderful training grounds. So many great people to learn with, a great place to grow. Ultimately, about 10 years ago, I turned on the entrepreneurial side of my career. I've been involved in a number of different businesses on that side, from real estate, credit card processing, some durable goods, including handicap accessibility. And ultimately, kind of through the ups and downs, what I found is that real assets, whether that be real estate, gold, silver, or any durable goods, that offers a security that, paper, promises, stocks, and other things don't offer. So I really tried to delve into how I could make secure investments in an area where there, was a little bit of opaqueness and, not the ability to, invest in, kind of standard products. I was lucky to find a great partner with it named Wade Brennan with Kilo Capital, who has over 20 years of experience in commodities and precious metals. And what we've built is an opportunity to invest in industrial metals that really replicates what exists for gold and silver today, where instead of investing in futures or minor stocks, you can invest directly in the metals. You own the metal. We store it, third parties secure facilities, and there's a storage fee associated with it. But at the end of the day, rather than investing in something that you don't fully understand, you're able to own and hold physical metals.
Absolutely. So help us understand why copper, why not anything else? And you talk about the shortage and all these things. What does the data show? Gold is something, nature has been kind on us, so it is scarce. What about copper? Help us understand from a very common person's point of view.
Yeah, so there's a few reasons why we love copper. Really, the story tells itself for the most part. As you think about everyday life in 2026, you're seeing the explosion of AI, building of data centers, throughout the world. Each data center, the commonality between them is they require 100,000 tons of copper to conduct all the electricity. Beyond AI, you have EVs, electric vehicles, You have rebuilding of power grids. You have expansion in across what we used to call the third world, mass development. But everything that runs on electricity requires copper to conduct that electricity. So the demand story really tells itself. I mean, we're every day we're more and more of an electrified world. The other piece of that, which makes it a particularly compelling investment thesis, is the supply side. So over the last 15 years, there really hasn't been as much mining and new project development for a variety of reasons, whether that be environmental, whether that be economic, whether that be geopolitical. But as you think about the demand increases, the supply just isn't there. There is copper in the earth, but it takes 15 to 20 years to start a new mine and get it from start to being able to extract that copper. But beyond that, the easy copper has largely been taken out of the earth. So we have what we call declining ore grades, meaning that the purity in the ground isn't as high, and it's just more difficult to process. So you layer on the increasing demand and the decreasing or stabilized supply, and it really becomes economics 101.
Absolutely, absolutely. But is this whole assumption or understanding enough, Alan, to understand that copper will be in short supply in the future? Gold, we have understanding. People know why gold is scarce, and its price, especially in the last couple of years, has gone up. Even Bitcoin, if you look by that, people know that it has a limited mining happening. In terms of, copper, how can one be so certain in terms of that it is going to be something that way? Just because AI is still, some people say the bubble will burst. Some people, about data centers also, a lot of data centers are being talked about that it might move out to outer space. So let's, in space there that will happen. So a lot of things, I don't know how this will all pan out. I'm not an expert on any of these things. I'm just trying to understand from a common person's perspective, should they be so bullish on something that you are saying? I want that clarity to happen, especially when it's about investing.
Sure. No, I appreciate the push. I mean, really, I think as you think about, the ability to, really look at the numbers and examine this, in the United States, we call it both sides of the political aisle. This is an area where there really isn't a lot of argument. There's not a lot of, there's nobody out there that's kind of debating the general story. As you look at the large miners out there, like, Robert Friedland from Ivanhoe, they've been beating this drum for a while. And we've started to see some of those price increases, particularly over the last, 12 to 18 months. And then the supply side, that's also just math. I mean, we can look at all the existing mines in the world, and their production cycles, where they are, and how much copper they can produce. And then you layer on it there's some additional challenges there, which some of the largest mines in the world right now have been closed due to safety concerns, mine accidents, etc. So it's not it's not something that is really that opaque. I mean, the demand cycles, the forecast could wax and wane a little bit, but by and large, the thesis that we're going to be that we're an increasingly electrified world, that piece doesn't change. There's some other great commentators out there that have kind of gone into the details of, mine by mine, where the shortfalls might be in the future. But again, the greatest problem on the supply side is that there just aren't enough mines coming online. I think it's been generally said out there that over the next 15 to 20 years, we'll need to mine more copper than we have, since the beginning of time. So that story really underlies the opportunity here. We know there'll be volatility, so we're built for the long term. We're not saying, hey, copper's going to spike in the next 2 weeks, you're going to miss the boat. But over the next number of years, the simple math tells you that we have that supply and demand issue, and it's an opportunity for folks to jump on board with now.
Absolutely. So where is this demand? Any particular region that this demand will come from, or is it all industry centric? How does it? In certain places, copper is quite used. Even in India, it's been used by general people for many years. They know that it has got a lot of benefits. But in terms of the huge demand that I'm talking about, is it only from industrial point of view, or it is also going to be from region specific? Electrification, if you look at it, there are certain regions in the world which are yet to get to that level of electrification.
Well, that's the beauty of the copper story is it's a worldwide phenomena. It's not like one region in the world has a different opportunity to use a different source for conduction. But as you think about development, whether that be further development in India, whether that be the African continent, whether that be China always gets the headlines, or whether that be domestically here in the U.S. or across the Americas. If there's an issue economically in one region or another, there's an opportunity, that in other countries, to continue to grow, and it's a worldwide phenomena. So it's really, it really is it's not an isolated event where the opportunities in one country or one region. But the copper market's global, and the usage story is consistent across the world. Additionally, from a resource perspective, I mean, copper comes from large countries like Chile and Peru in South America, Democratic Republic in Africa, Australia. The first mine in a long time just came online in the U.S. So there's also an international supply story that is burgeoning as well. So as you think about the development in, copper miners and the opportunity there, we like that. We like that part of the story.
Absolutely, Alan. So, is there anything that can, give this story a different direction? For example, now people, after all this oil crisis and all, people might be looking very strongly at solar power, wind power, any other power, and renewable will be the thing. And how will be the demand of copper in that industry if the electrification part move towards that line? Will it be the same? I don't know about the usage of copper in those industries.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, the consistency of the need for copper across electrical sources. It's just that it's consistent. So, whether you're talking about solar panels and transmitting electricity from there, or hydro, wind, et cetera. I mean, wind turbines are actually a fantastic example where you see the outside of the turbine, you see the big windmill at the top, but throughout that windmill turbine is, that's all copper to conduct the electricity back into a usable form and into the power grid. So the story of where the power comes from, where the copper story is agnostic to that. The other piece is you talk about, kind of the changing of the story. For us here at Kilo Reserve, copper's the most understandable story. Everyone, everybody largely, understands the need for it, at least at a base level. But when you think about the power of what Kilo Reserve is building, we have the opportunity to add other metals, some very common, like aluminum, that again, people generally understand, but also some of these more specialty metals or critical earths. I mean, we're really strongly looking at, ruthenium, iridium, tungsten, rhodium, as other metals that we can put on the platform. Again, the opportunity is the same. The investor can own the real metal. We store it, and can sell it back into the market at any time the customer set looks to exit. That part of the story is, we don't know what technology developments are going to come next, but we know that at any point in time, there can be another discovery that requires, again, more rhodium. We also know that just as mining's been so prevalent, that all of these minerals are, there's not an infinite supply of any of them. So again, I love telling the copper story. I think it's the easiest to understand, but I think this story is repeatable as you look at all the other, metals and really general commodities out there. As the, population continues to grow, as technology continues to develop, and we know that we'll have the need for these metals going forward.
Absolutely, absolutely, Alan. So, in terms of getting started, what is the best way for a simple common investor in any part of the world to get started? And also, in terms of the kilo reserve, where does kilo reserve come into the picture? Where does it has an edge if you have other competitors vis-a-vis those competitors?
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, I encourage the audience to come to the Kilo Reserve website. We have a number of different blogs, white papers, et cetera, that can help tell the story. Again, starting with copper, but we're building the library to tell the story more across the industrial metal spectrum. But therein, it's very easy to open an account. Provide your basic information, fund the account, and then we have a trading platform that has been built out, really specially for our needs, so that like any brokerage account, you can transact, see your position, get your reporting, and own the metal. Ultimately, the other thing that I think is really important to say is we go through quarterly audits from a third-party firm. They're able to go into the storage facilities and make sure that the customer balances of copper or whatever other metal match what we actually have. So there's a big trust factor and a differentiator from what we do. And again, there's other ways to invest in metals, but this really is owning the metal itself, just like you would with gold or silver, where you can, with those instances, you can have the gold underneath your bed in your safe, et cetera. Copper, obviously, a cheaper product. In order to have a significant amount of copper, you'd need to fill a garage or a room, and that's why the storage component makes so much sense. But again, the investment in the physical asset is really the only way to have that perfect correlation with the metals price, versus investing in another instrument that might track or be correlated with the price of in this case, copper or any of the underlying metals.
Absolutely. So how do I infuse copper into my portfolio as a small investor?
Again, you can invest in any sort of size on the Kilo Reserve through Kilo Reserve. I think it's very important to note as we're talking from a Kilo Reserve perspective. Our view is that this is part of a balanced portfolio. If you own other assets, you want to come in here smartly, but it's a story that you can understand and you can build in. But diversification is always key.
Absolutely. So is going through Kilo Reserve and investing in it, is it only for the people who are US citizens, or anywhere else in the world can connect with you and do so?
Great question. Today we are just in the US, but we have plans to expand. Again, come to the Kilo Reserve website. Those expansion plans, as they become more and more concrete, will be posted there. But right now we are for US domestic investors.
Absolutely. There is so much to learn about all this, and I'm sure a lot of people would be interested to understand this much more directly from you, Alan, and want to connect with you, and also perhaps want to invest with you, know more about Kilo Reserve. What is the best way for them to connect with you as well as invest with you?
Yeah, coming directly to the website. We have our info@kiloreserve.com, our support@kiloreserve.com, email addresses, our phone numbers listed on the website. But we're eager to talk to folks out there, help with the education process, and ultimately, if the investments are the right opportunity for an individual or a corporation, we're happy to facilitate that.
Absolutely. Though this discussion was focused on copper, what are the other, metals that one should look out at? What is it that you mentioned some of the other metals, but what are the other things that, investors can keep an eye on that you are also focusing on?
I mean, we love the broader commodity set. So, we love real assets. We love, we don't do any real estate here at Kilo, but we love that as a real asset, hedge against inflation, et cetera. We do like precious metals. There are, the gold and silver markets are incredibly efficient. There'll be volatility, but there'll be opportunities there. But then as you think about, whether it be agricultural products. We've looked at potash and some of the inputs to fertilizer. Overall, we believe that real assets will grow in value above the inflation rate. As you look out the next 5 to 10 years. Our first focus at Kilo Reserve, though, is those industrial metals. Again, I mentioned aluminum is one that's kind of just as common as copper. And understandable by the general population, but then some of the other ones like tungsten, iridium, ruthenium, iridium are some of the lesser known metals that we believe have great stories attached to them as well.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
I really appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.